What is up, fellow Grim Dawn players? Paleo Gamer here, and bringing you a guide that was inspired about I was loving a two-handed savagery character and was using savagery and stacking savagery, then using primal strike, and then I got to thinking, I'm like, well, I wonder how much damage I could really get if I start stacking savagery and then adding some other things on. And then I came across some gear that had chance on hit effects. For instance, chance on hit lightning bolt, chance to hit fireball, and they were a low percentage, like 5 or 10%. So I'm like, they won't even proc that often. But as you get into it, you're like, oh wow, this is actually triggering quite often. That got me thinking. I'm like, I wonder if I can do a two-handed build, that really takes advantage of swinging really really fast. Taking advantage of all these chance on hit procs, and that's what we have here. So let's get in. So it's a trickster. So it's going to be Nightblade Shaman, really focusing on dual wielding and lightning damage. That's it. From looking at everything, I found that lightning was such a large amount of damage. I mean, the range is big, but it's still very, very large. So it gets you huge crits. So that was my focus. So I pretty much just got this just to be able to dual wield, and then also get all these other nodes here. So I also wanted to do chance on hit, because again, I'm swinging very, very quickly. I wanted to take advantage of all these chance to be used effects from the Nightblade. So we got the shears here. It does a pretty large amount of damage because it's 100% weapon damage, and our weapons still do good damage. Since it is weapon damage, although we're using a lot of lightning damage, our weapons are still accounted for because it's actually weapon damage, not just like physical or whatnot. So it takes the whole amount of our weapon. So that'll give us 3,000 to 6,000, which is pretty good. This right here is just a modifier, and it's really only used for the slow. 33% chance to slow the target for 5 seconds. That's really all it's used for. So just 1 point into that. And then a quick cut. I was thinking of this similar to think of like the shaman from World of Warcraft, the Wind Fury attack. I was like, oh, that's really, really cool. So I started putting points into this, and it does quite a decent bit of damage when it procs. You just see a spam of numbers, so it's real quick, very fast spam of just lightning damage and extra attacks and chance to be used effects as well. Only put 5 points in each one of these just to take advantage of the chance to be used to the 20%. Any further points, you don't really get any more benefits, so you just just 5 points is enough. Except for this execution, again at level 5, it only gives you 20% chance, but the amount of weapon damage that you get from this is so good that I advise just chucking everything. It also reduces their maximum health as well. So that in combination deserves a full 8 points. This is like the heavy hitting. I mean, you can see 10,000 to 20,000 almost, 19.1. But with all the proximate abilities and savagery stacked up, this gets really up there. I've seen it like 25, 30,000 tooltip DPS, and of course it can go higher than that. Get Ring of Steels here, Ring of Steel along with Ring of Frost. 1 point into this, and the only thing this is really used for is just to freeze your enemies. That's it. It's not really there for the damage or anything, but it gives you enough chance to get out of a sticky situation or stop taking so much damage so that you can heal with a potion or Wendigo Totem or what have you. Very, very good. This is just a mobility, just 1 point into it. You can move from pack to pack. It's very quick. Or you can get out of a sticky situation as well. You can go to another pack if you're like trying to run from something. You can actually make quite a big distance from this. It doesn't appear like there's any range. I've had things where I'm like up on a stair level and I can click on the guy all the way down at the bottom that I can see, and it'll actually travel. As long as there's nothing in between there, it'll actually travel all the way down. So it's pretty fun. And it even hits really hard. 1 point. And I've seen it hit for 10, 12,000 each weapon, because he actually kind of does like a double attack. And then also Pneumatic Burst. This is your kind of bread and butter heal. Heals for 32%. It gives you a lot of health regeneration. And then, of course, 15% total speed. That's movement speed, that's haste. So for like attacks, attack speed, cast speed, whatever you need, it's got it. And then of course you get the node down here to reduce the skill recharge, so you can actually spam it more often, and it's really great there. Also, 7 points into this. I don't like adding anything more than 7, because every skill point after this, you're reducing the amount of effectiveness that your skill points have. You'll see that a lot in Grim Dawn, that the abilities, they're not necessarily optimal to max every time, unlike normal, like, oh yeah, just chuck all the points into it and then max it out, it's great. Some abilities, like for instance Shears and Quick Cut, like I said before, they're 20% chance to be used, that drops down and it really reduces the effectiveness of your skill point. Same thing with here, 7 points in, you get 2% chance to avoid melee projectiles and melee and projectiles, and after that, it's just 1 point every level after that. It goes up to 20% for both melee and projectile attacks. So I just don't feel like it's worth the extra points to go into this. I could be wrong, but I feel like so far it's worked for me well. And then I also got Veil of Shadows. I had a couple extra points going through the build, and then I'm like, reducing their offensive rating, reduce the amount of damage you take by reducing the chance they have to crit you, reducing the chance they have to hit you. It's pretty rare that they won't be able to hit you because they're always higher level than you, so they're always going to have an advantage in that aspect, but this reduces it to some extent, and the 12% total speed is pretty decent for a couple points, and it's a static effect, 4-meter radius. It's pretty large, it's not bad. These points can be flexible. You could put them in wherever you see fit. If you want to put them in here and get higher avoidance, that's not a bad idea. But so far, this is what I've been trying out, and it's been fine. Blade Barrier, 1 point of that. This skill has saved my life, I don't know how many times. 100% damage absorption for 3 seconds. You sit there, you reflect 100% of the damage that you would normally take. And it's also pre-mitigated damage, so it doesn't account for any of your resistances, it doesn't account for any of your armor. So if a boss is going to hit you for 20,000 pre-mitigated damage, you're actually going to reflect 20,000 back to him. You might have only taken 5,000 from that hit, but since this is reflecting 100% of the damage before your defenses take place, it's just going to reflect a crap ton of damage back to him, and overall, just a great survivability skill, extra health regen, all that stuff. So it's all in all, just great. It also buys you more time for your pneumatic burst. It's another reason Ring of Steel is there for, so you can use pneumatic burst. This freezes them for a couple seconds. This brings them, or this allows you to have more time for your pneumatic burst. And then also segueing into Shaman, Wendigo Totem. This thing heals like a freaking madman. 8% per half second, as long as there's enemies within its radius, and then an additional 275 on top of that every time it pulses. And again, this is just one of these kind of skills here, this Blade Barrier and Ring of Steel with Ring of Frost. These kind of abilities just allow you to recoup from crit hits, recoup from large amounts of damage you take from whatever. It just buys you more time to use pneumatic burst and more time for your potions. You kind of rotate through all of these, and that's what really increases your survivability. Same thing with just 1 point into Blood Pact, because it gives you that 33% chance to give you 8% attack damage converted to health. And that really helps a lot because you're doing a lot of damage. So this will really, I've seen it like where it's just crazy healing just from auto attacking, and it's really useful in that retrospect. The next thing we get is Storm Totem. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to keep this. This is kind of one of those, it's up to you, it's playstyle choice. And I'll kind of explain it when we go through and kind of work through as I show you how the build plays out, and then I'll explain more about this. But Storm Totem is really, really good. After you stack up Savagery and you have all your procs up, I mean, Storm Totem can just spam 5k lightning bolts, and it changed to 4 different targets. And it's good. It's really good, and it procs, Tsunami quite well, which is just a small amount of damage, but it's kind of like set it and forget it type deal. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Our bread and butter for this build is Savagery. So Savagery, you're just going to be stacking constantly. You want to get as many stacks of savagery as you can. So as you see down here, savagery is my right click. It's what I use pretty much as default attack for every single thing. And this is what also helps proc all of these other abilities for Nightblade. This whole line here is procced primarily from savagery and auto attacks. And it does a lot of damage, actually. The charge levels, every single charge level, you get additional damage for everything you have. So at one charge, so just attacking once with savagery, you'll get 30%. And then at 8 charges, you get 115% extra damage. And I believe that's total damage. As well as doing a lot of weapon damage. It gives additional bleeding and lightning, and overall just really, really, really good skill. If you decide to ever go two-hander, you could probably kind of mutate this to two-hander if you really wanted to. It would just not be as effective. But you can get Might of the Bear, gives you physical resistance, and then additional damage modifiers, which is pretty damn good for just a couple points, 3 points. Tenacity of the Bear, I don't think it's really worth a lot of points to check into this. You're only getting 7 offensive ability and a couple defensive. It's just not worth it. So I've chucked 1 point in there just to get the plus to all skills or plus to shaman skills or whatever, and you get the extra 25 offensive ability for 1 point. That's worth it to me. Then we got Storm Touched, which is just insane. It procs quite often. It's pretty much always up. You attack so fast. You attack enough to just pretty much keep this up the whole time, and it's one of our best chance on hit attacks besides execution. I'd say this is like second. Then of course Stormcaller's Pact is just insane damage for you, and it really helps that it has converted to physical to lightning damage, because you want to do as much lightning damage as possible because you're scaling lightning so much. And of course it has a bunch of damage on it and grants you a bunch of damage with a 33% chance to do almost 500% lightning damage at level 18. I've got a lot of plus modifiers into it. And then the last kind of string of skills that we got down here, Modrigan's Pack is insanely good, not for its main ability, but its add node, Heart of the Wild, 40% additional health. It's nuts. It's insane. This alone, adds, I think it's something like 4,000 health or 5,000 health. So this just here, I put enough points to get it to 10. See, I have some modifiers in my gear that, plus to all skills that increase this. So anytime you have enough points to where you can get the skill to its optimum level, and for this skill, it's level 10. Any skill point past level 10, it only increases it by 1%, but if it's at level 9, it's at 36%, so it's 1 point per 4% of health. And after that, like I said, just get it to 10, whatever your gear setup has. That's what you're going to want to focus on, getting this to level 10, and then leaving it be. If you start getting stuff that adds to it, just take a couple points out, whatever it is, to get it to level 10, and then put it somewhere else. I'm at 85, and I'm 4 points away from being maxed here. If I really wanted to max this out, this wouldn't be so bad to put a couple points in if you have extra points. If you don't want to have extra, or if you have extra points here rather. And then of course 1 point into this gives a little bit of pierce resistance. And it gives you a little bit of armor and some retaliation damage, which doesn't really help much. And then 5% health regen. So for 1 point, you're getting a decent chunk of defensive stats, and percent or plus to armor. It increases all of your armor on all 5 slots. So collectively, it's actually pretty good. This also would be another point, another skill that if you had extra points into, I wouldn't look away from putting points into this. Then get into the devotion tree. I've redone the devotion trees a couple times. Some have been super defensive, where I went after Chariot, Behemoth, and then like the Tree of Life. That was okay. I thought Tree of Life would be a lot better. Reading it, it sounds like it's really good, but I don't know. A heal of 13% every 15 seconds is not that great, to be honest. I noticed when it procced, I had like 1,000 health regen per second, but when it wore off, I was down to like 800 because other of the abilities, they're just better. Like this right here, this is 10% plus 1300, and it procs every roughly 10 seconds or so. And then, of course, Giant's Blood is just better. It just gives you a flat 260 health regenerated per second, plus 25 health restored, and plus 1,000. All in all, this is your best kind of on-hit type deal. This adds a lot. It's really, really good. Another iteration I had was getting enough skill or devotion points to get this node here, Light of Empyrean. It's got something like, there's 40 elemental resistance there, another 30 of vitality, and Aether Chaos, plus 3 to maximum all resist, which is pretty insane. I did use this quite a bit. It's just, I found it a little strange. When it rains down, it typically seemed to always proc when I was using my Ring of Steel, or when I was using my Blade Barrier. So I'd Blade Barrier and want them to reflect the damage back to themselves while also healing myself and all that jazz. And then this would come down and they would just walk away because it has a chance to confuse. So I just kind of felt like it was just not the greatest. So I kind of went away from that. My character was lacking offensive ability, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to respec and kind of try to go a little bit more offensive because I had, max resistances without these points here. And I'm like, how much offensive ability can I get to really assist? Because I was like missing a lot of monsters, so it just wasn't good. I was barely critting. Actually, as a matter of fact, in some mobs I could not crit at all. And my weapons have a 100% chance on a critical strike to do a chain lightning. So it would never proc, like ever. It was never going off. So it was just wasted stats. I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out. So then what I did is, for offensive rating, I went after the Viper because it's 4% here. I got the Hawk, it's another 3% here. Chariot has another 3% here. Then also a couple other offensive ability nodes all throughout here as well. Then, of course, the Lightning Tempest is just so much lightning damage as well as more offensive ability. And then, of course, more damage with the lightning ability here. And then, of course, the chance on lightning damage. 100%. Then you also got more offensive ability. There. 5% offensive ability here, and of course just more crit damage and lightning resistance, and then more lightning damage. Overall, it's crazy good lightning damage. Now, one thing I haven't really revisited it when I did this build, it was a lot of pulling points out of places, grabbing constellations, and trying to kind of like spec into something to get the required devotion cost, and then specking out of it to go somewhere else. So right now, I'm 1 point away from getting Spear of the Heavens. I haven't figured out how to do the adjustments to keep everything that I have now, but somehow get to Spear of the Heavens. I was 1 point away, so it's kind of, I don't know. I'll have to revisit it and really figure it out, but for the most part, it works out really well. And then, of course, Empty Throne for resistances. These resistance nodes are just really, really good. Aether Pierce Chaos. And then onto the gear that we've got. I believe the best in slot swords are Stormheart. I have 2. They're also very easy to get. Stormheart can be found on Ultimate if you go to Astrakhan Valley over here. If you go straight right, if you're facing north, just go straight right from the portal. There's like a little crypt over there. Go into that crypt, and then there's an ancient urn. If you kind of go straight, like diagonal over to like the top right room of that area, you'll find an ancient urn. If you do the quest for Dahlia in Homestead, there's a journal. Once you leave Homestead, you come over here. There's like a house. And then there's like one of those blue altars that has a book that falls out of it and gives you this this diary. And you go back to her, you wink at her, then you come over here, like I said, go to Astrakhan Valley, and go into the crypt, and it gives you this free legendary. And you are able to get this on once per character, so it's pretty good, considering it's best in slot. And this is the kind of stats you're looking for. You're looking for physical damage on your weapon is not necessarily ideal, but if you have enough physical damage converted to lightning damage, it's okay. It's not too important. If you look at my character, he only has a very small amount of physical damage, so most of it is converted to lightning. My lightning damage modifier is 813%. And with procs, it goes well over 1,000. It's like 1,500, the max it can get if everything procs, you know. Um, but yeah, the Stormheart, these are your best in slot swords. Before this, a lower level legendary is something called Crystallum. Very similar to this, just lower level and less damage, of course. This is a craftable. Again, for this build, I believe it's best in the slot. The lightning bolt that it has is just nuts. 13 to 15,000 with full savagery procs and pneumatic burst. This thing can hit super hard. I believe it's what's hit for 60,000. It's either the lightning bolt that's hit for 60,000 or it's the execution. I'm not 100% sure. But this was actually new. I was at 59,000 for my max damage. It was like 59,228. Now it's at 60,089. So that's crazy. And then Ultos QS. This is the set that I really want to get. This is gonna be your go-to set. 8% offensive ability is just crazy. All the lightning damage that it has on it, all the plus to skills, they're really, really good. It is a two-handed set, so you're not gonna use the weapon. So you would only get 4 piece, which isn't too big of a deal. The fifth piece of the set, you know, adds some cool stuff, but it's not really essential. I think the 4 piece for this set is good enough. It gives you everything you need, a lot of offensive ability, a lot of plus to skills. So that's really the goal for me. So I have to find more pieces. I've only found one. These pair of green leggings are just crazy good. I had a friend that I traded for these. I was lacking a lot of resistances, and this is where I get my resistances for the most part. A lot of resistances on these pants, a lot of health, decent bit of armor, and overall just crazy good pair of green pants. And this goes to show you that rares can be really, really good. Just gotta keep an eye out for them, and don't just sell them. Keep an eye out for them. Eye of the Storm, best in slot, hands down, 100% sure of this. It's crazy good on everything it does. Everything that it's on it is super useful, besides, of course, the retaliation. I don't understand why the game, Grim Dawn, they put retaliation in things that just don't make sense to me. But this is a fully offensive item, and then they go retaliation. So it's just weird to me. But anyways, what really makes this good, besides the overall stats on it, is the Stormcaller's Aura. Stormcaller's Aura is insanely good damage for us. It's just crazy good. It adds a couple thousand DPS very easily. Just turning the aura on, it's just, turn it on and forget it. Boom, you're good to go. It's awesome. I love it. Moving on to our belt here. This thing has so much resistances on it. By no means is it like the best in slot, belt or anything. But if you need resistances for poison or bleeding, I mean, look at my poison. This is all an ultimate, 95% on ultimate. And then of course, bleeding's at 90%. So it's kind of crazy. Really, really good belt. The Tinker's Ingenuity is super good as well. When you drop below 30, 15% damage absorption. You do extra damage, a bunch of health regeneration, energy regeneration. All in all, just a great skill. And only 30-second recharge. Just great belt right there for survivability. I was really, really low on pierce resistance. Needed to find something. Found this. Had a friend craft this for me. This is just pure resistances, just for everything, just for survivability and to make sure my resistances are all maxed. So of course, 89 pierce resistance, super, super good. Our necklace again, resistances, needed to get those capped. With the devotion tree when I spec'd out of all those resistances, my resistances dropped dramatically, and I needed to find a way to make up for that while not really sacrificing too much. And finding these legendaries really, really helped me out, or crafting the epics as well. And this thing is just best in slot for any kind of survivability means. A hardcore best in slot necklace, hands down. This is nuts. It's super good. This ring here is very, very crucial for the build as well. If you ever come across anything electrified, if you don't have this ring, it's going to take a while. Because we're doing, 900% or 800% lightning damage, and we're really focusing just on one element, anything that is electrified or that is very high highly resistant to electricity or lightning damage, you're going to just sit there and smack on it for days, and it's like a wet noodle fight. It's bad. But this has the 15% chance to reduce the target's resistance by 60% for 5 seconds. No cooldown. And we swing really, really fast. It's always up. If you're on a boss, it'll always be up. Any hero, it's always up. It doesn't matter. It's always up. And you know when it procs. You'll be smacking something for like 300 to 400 if they're electrified or whatnot. 300 to 400, you're doing like no damage. Once this thing procs, you're doing 10,000, 10,000, 20,000. You're just smacking the crap out of him. His health just drops. You know when this procs. This is super crucial for this kind of build, I think. Just one ring, one is fine. And of course it has other stuff on it too. I mean, 51% elemental damage. We do lightning. Good stuff. The other stats on it, nothing really useful. It's just the 2 stats. The extra energy, whatever. They're not bad stats. The casting speed, whatever. Wasted stat, but anything else is just fine. The ring here is super good. Again, resistances. That's what I was looking for in this ring. It's not the best ring by any means, but for me, they're what max my resistance is, and that's what I needed. I needed something that still gave a decent bit of damage. The 6% attack speed is actually quite critical. If I remove this, what is that? Almost 1,000 damage just with this one ring. It doesn't look like it gives 1,000 damage, but just the attack speed and the elemental damage alone, and the all damage is just huge. So all in all, very good ring for pierce and poison resistance. Without it, I'm not maxed on either one. So it's definitely required for me. Moving to our shoulders. These things could be improved. They're not bad, but they really only have 3 useful stacks on them. We'll say 4 useful stats. The lightning damage, the electrocute, offensive ability, and chance to avoid. I guess 5. Stormcaller's pact. But the other stats are pretty useless. Heavy ordnance we don't use, and of course the retaliation. It's on a lot of gear, so I mean it's decent. It does okay when they hit us. And we are stacking a lot of lightning, so maybe it's not so bad. Moving on to our bracers here. These are really, really good, but I don't know. I would say that they're something I really need to find something better of. I think folder storm hood. So yeah, these are something I really need to improve on. The only useful stats here are going to be the lightning cunning, and I guess lightning resistance. Everything else is useless for the most part. And the 10% lightning, the bolt on on attack. That's really again what this build is focusing on. So that's why I chose these. But I think there are better. I just have to find it. And then these boots are another one of those super tanky and pretty solid for our build. And you get electrocute damage, lightning damage, health, a lot of health. And then resistances. Storm Titan's not bad either. Titan's pretty good. And it's a 24% chance on hit. And recharge 3 seconds. So it's actually looks like it could be almost always up as long as the procs are right. Pretty cool. So overall, max resistances on everything but chaos. I'm a bit away from chaos resistance. Probably going to come from the gloves eventually. I'm not really too sure where I'm going to get that resistance, but for the most part, I'm very, very happy with my resistances. Health pools 13.4k. DPS fully buffed. It's like 24,900, and we can get into that once we do the gameplay of it. And yeah, so we're looking pretty solid for everything here. Yeah, the most damage I've ever done in one hit is 60,000, like I mentioned. Now this here, damage taken 8,500. That's really, really large, and that's kind of the biggest problem that I have with this character, is that the physical resistance has nothing in it, so 0. And the armor is fairly low due to the helmet. It's just naturally low in armor, and the shoulders that I was talking about, they're just low in armor. So those two, if I take a critical hit in the helmet or the shoulders, I'm going to take a lot of damage. And it's what has caused this character to die, a lot of the times. 160 deaths, a lot of that was due to just trying different things and working through and making the build. So I wouldn't let that deter you from playing the character. The health does dip from time to time, but there's a lot of recovery methods that you can do. So it's kind of part of it. It's like a roller coaster for your health. Your health is constantly bouncing up and down. I wouldn't mind having more health, more the health total, but that's something to work on with maybe better gloves and shoulders. Um, Probably getting the Altos Cuirass would be, or the Altos set would be great. Yeah, so let's get into some gameplay. I actually have a portal open down over here to show you guys a quick gameplay to kind of demonstrate the build and kind of walk you through how it's really played. It's super fun. So on my bar, this is kind of how I have my character. Use savagery as my right click, and left click is just the move to. I recommend using move to and not default attack, because a lot of times when you click to move, you might hit a monster and you'll start smacking it, and it'll actually get you killed if you can't click around something. So just click the move higher would be highly suggested. Then I've also got Sacred Strike. Sacred Strike is nuts as well. The reduced target's resistance by 30%, or I'm sorry, by 30 is actually just really good. And then the 230% weapon damage, it hits really hard. And it's a double swing. So I've actually seen each weapon hit for 15 to 20,000 each. So it's really good, as well as all the elemental damage that it does, and the 100% of your damage is converted to elemental, which is good. Lightning. And then of course, Blade Barrier and Ring of Frost. Those are on my mouse. So when I hit my mouse, it actually goes off. And same thing with Blade Barrier. So those are hotkeyed, because those are very survivability type deals where I don't want to have to reach across to the key bindings to hit those. So those are there for me when I need it. Another Sacred Strike, because I do have it, Blessed Steel on both weapons. I've moved to Blessed Steel for both weapons because of the conversion to elemental damage, as well as the offensive ability and the elemental damage total and the plus elemental. It might not be the best, but so far that's what I'm kind of trying out, and so far I like it. Having double Sacred Strike is pretty good because you can use them both. So that's pretty cool. Then of course Wendigo Totem and Storm Totem, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Just running through and placing down the totems. A lot of times you'll kill things so fast that when you lay down the two totems, it's just not worth it. It might get like 2 or 3 pulses off. The Lightning Totem, it's got bigger range, sure, but the Wendigo Totem is really only useful on bosses and heroes and stuff like, or big packs of mobs. It's super critical for the build because it allows you to heal a lot, but it does have its downsides. And then of course Pneumatic Burst, just straight healing and all that jet. We already went over that. So let's do some gameplay for. So what I like to do is when I come into a pack of mobs, I Shadow Strike in there, lay down the 2 totems, get your Pneumatic Burst up, and you just kind of start cracking in there. You want to use your Ring of Steel whenever you can freeze something, and whenever you need to. You can use it as defensive as you want, or you can use it as offensive as you want. I pretty much use things on cooldown for the build, so it's very spam heavy. If you like spamming your abilities, then this is the build for you. A lot of times I'm literally just hitting all 4 buttons just constantly, and it's really fun. It takes away from the. I want to say it's not necessarily brain dead, but it's definitely it doesn't take a lot of skill. I would say that a lot of people can come in and do it. Now, sure, you can definitely, like for instance, Bastion of Chaos. I have a harder time with Bastion of Chaos because of my physical resistance problem, and it's really difficult to handle those minions. So I use my abilities less frequently, and I use them when I really need to, as opposed to just using them on cooldown. But in here, I don't really have a problem with piercing damage, which is what most of these guys do, and it works out well. So yeah, just running around killing stuff. As you can see, it blows through things quite easily. And as I was mentioning before, see, like when you lay down a totem, it's just you kill things fast enough to where the totems don't really get to do a lot, but then at the same time, the totems are there when you need them. So it's one of those things where you could move the points out, and you can try using them elsewhere if you don't like the playstyle of laying 2 totems down and then going in. I've thought about changing it, but I just don't really know what to get afterwards or instead of them. You know, you can go more defensive stats or more, or rather, more defensive abilities. Um, and it might be a good idea. Not too sure. Like I said, this character is really its only weakness, I would say, like I mentioned before, is physical damage. I take huge chunks from anything that does physical, which is rather annoying because physical damage being a secondary resistant, you would think it wouldn't be that good. Let me do a blade barrier here. Try to see if I can reflect. Looks like a 6,000 attack on him. Not really that big a deal, but and as you're just clicking on everything, you can just see the spam of numbers, which is it's super fun. It makes it a little difficult to see those big crits. Like before, like I mentioned, the highest crit on this character was 59,000 before, and I actually just recently, when I was playing previously, hit 60k, and that was not something I had done before. So, and most of the time we can actually burn this guy down before the priests, but it looks like I was getting frozen there, so I'm actually gonna focus on the ads over here. The priests are quite annoying. Yeah, like as you can see here, just spamming the Ring of Steel on cooldown, it really disrupts the minions, and it prevents them from... Sorry, I was getting frozen. I don't remember him actually freezing this much. Anyways, it really prevents the minions from getting a lot of their attacks off. It'll freeze them in mid-attacks, and, you know, really interrupt their abilities, and it makes it much more of a smoother experience, and of course buys time for all your other abilities. So if you liked what you saw, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel. It's really brand new, so I have a very low amount, and share the video as well if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and of course come check out the channel over here at twitch.tv/thepaleogamer. All right, later, guys.